Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn to Tap Day 1. Give me one moment. All right. Welcome, everyone, to Learn to Tap Day 1. Just got to get this feedback. Welcome, everyone, to Learn to Tap. You're going to hear me a couple times as I mute the other side. So excited you're here. If you are new to my world, you are in for the biggest treat over the next few days. We are going to be diving into everything you need to know about EFT tapping, my style of tapping. Today, we're going to talk about how and why it works. And this training has impacted thousands of people's lives. It has been running for the past 5 years. And if you are listening to it today, it's not a mistake. I always say this work finds you when you're ready for it. It finds you for a reason. And so say hello when you're here, whether you're watching live or on the replay. I would love, love, love to hear from you. I'm just going to give it a moment and make sure that you guys can see me on the other end. I think it just stopped. So I just want to make sure that we're still on live. One second. Okay, I think you guys can see me. Let me know in Facebook if you guys can see and hear me, okay? Sometimes technology is funky at the beginning as we get everything set up, but as far as I know, you're here. Good morning, Alita and Lisa and Iris and Sarah. Thank you for being here with me live. Okay, I think we're good. I can see it on my phone. Can't see it on my desktop, but I'm going to trust that we are rolling. Awesome. I'm good on Facebook. Perfect. And remembering that this is recorded, so you'll be able to come back and watch this later at any time. I'm also going to upload this onto the podcast. So hello to all my podcast listeners. The Wildly Wealthy Woman podcast is available for you to listen anytime, as well as YouTube. So welcome to day 1. I'm going to dive in by going through a little bit of housekeeping before we start. I'm going to start by sharing my story, introducing yourself to me. If you've never seen or heard of me before, hello. We will get to know each other in this space over the next few days. And then we're going to get into the science of tapping. And I'm going to bring on a very special, important person to share and talk about that with us today. And if you are with me live on Facebook, please let me know. Good morning. Hi, Iris. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Alita. Awesome. Good to see you all here. So you will see me share my screen. Let me just get the thing up here. You will get access to these PDFs if you are opted in. So if you have opted in for this free training, and if you would like that link, I will put it below so you guys get that. We do send you out these PDFs so that you can go through them. If I skip over something and you're like, I missed it, don't worry, you can come back and listen to this and get the PDFs at any time. All right, before we begin, yes, there's the replay, the free downloads. You're going to receive an intro to tapping guide if you haven't already received it. It will go out in today's replay email. Most people in my world have downloaded it at some point, but just in case you haven't, it will be there today. And it will come with a do-it-yourself tapping script. So if you, again, hear me say things today or experience some things today that you missed, it will all come to you in your email. And I will be offering a prize every day. So if you can be here live, you're eligible for a prize. And I will, if you've commented in the chat that you are here, that you are engaging, say hello, I will enter your name to win. We are going to share that at the end what your prize is. And that on day 3, it's important for you to know that you will be invited to take the next step. So if you love tapping with me, if if it resonates with you over the next 4 days and you want to learn more, there will be a way for you to work with us ongoing this year. And our mission with tapping is to get into the hands, hearts, and homes of more people. So you're in for a treat. Let's dive in to a little bit of introduction. So I'm going to introduce myself, the history of tapping. We're going to go through some frequently asked questions. You're going to learn the tapping points, and then we're going to go into how and why it works. Awesome. Hi, everyone on Facebook. So good to see you all here. Hello. Comment so I know you're here, and we will enter you in to win a prize at the end. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I would love for you to take a moment, take a breath, connect in with me right now. And if you're not driving and you're in a safe place to do so, you can go ahead and close your eyes this morning. Taking a nice, comfortable breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Setting aside anything you were doing before this. setting aside anything you'll go to after this. Creating a space just for you today, for this next hour. And I really want you to think about what attracted you to this training. What drew you into this work? Maybe it was something that someone said. Maybe it was something you experienced. Maybe it was an image or a video you saw. But just notice that something drew you here today. Something made you click on this, say yes, show up. Just be open and curious what that was for you. And then I want you to think about your intention. How are you hoping EFT can support you? Is there an area of your life you're interested in using it? Is there something that you would like to use it for? So what attracted you to this training, and how are you hoping EFT can support you? Maybe it's in your health, maybe it's with your children, maybe it's in your business. Just setting that intention now. And then at the end of the 4 days, what would you love to take away with you? So maybe you would like to experience a shift in your mindset, a shift in your body and how you feel physically. Maybe you would like to feel like, wow, this is the key. This is the thing that has been missing. Just ask yourself that today. At the end of the 4 days, what would I like to take away from this experience? And if you're here live or if you're on the replay, I would love for you to share it below. What's your intention? How are you hoping EFT can support you? Because it's really important for me as the person facilitating this experience, that if there's something in particular you really want to learn, that I can spend more time talking about it. You know, tapping often finds people at a time of transition when they're about to go through massive growth. And we often say that tapping finds you when you're ready for it. It's not a mistake if it's landed into your world right now. It's here for a reason. Whether it's for a personal reason, a professional reason, just a moment to get you through something, or for a bigger reason. You're meant to teach this work. You're meant to help people with it. And so when you're ready, you can share your intention in the chat. And as I said, if there's anything in particular you would love for me to dive deeper on over these next 4 days, please share it, because there's so many ways you can use tapping. That's the incredible thing with it. Endless topics we can tap on together. And I want to make sure this experience is tailored to you and your needs. All right, well, I'm going to dive in a little bit to who I am and my story. So hello, welcome. My name is Jackie McDonald. I am the founder of Tapping School, which is an online certification and coaching program where our mission is to get tapping into the hands, hearts, and homes of people worldwide. I often say that tapping found me at my worst and brought me to my best, because when it entered my life, I was going through a major time of uncertainty. I was experiencing some pretty significant trauma, and the doctors didn't have answers for what was going on physically for my body. And that's when EFT tapping came into my world. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it's called tapping because we're tapping on acupuncture points on the face and body. And let me tell you, it looked real weird when I first started exploring it. It looks weird, but it works. And I was at that point where I didn't care what it looked like. I just needed to feel better. And we'll hear us say, and the people in my community say, tapping helps you feel better faster. And that's exactly what happened for me. So in 2011, I had my daughter. I was 19 at the time. And within the 6 months of her being born, we had 5 deaths within our family and friend group. So as you can imagine, that was a highly traumatic state that it put my nervous system into. And I had some strange symptoms the doctors didn't have answers for. And that's when EFT came into my life. I decided to get certified because after one session of tapping, I learned so much about my body. And number two, my anxiety decreased. And because of that, my body started to heal. These strange symptoms I was having started to go away. I started to get better. And I always say, I feel like I got my life back, and you're just not feeling well and you just want to get back to normal life. Well, tapping really, really gave me that. So I became certified in 2012, 2013. I was raising my baby. She was a year old. And I started just tapping on anything and everything. And that's the cool thing about this technique is you can try it on anything. You can try it on your health. You can try it on your relationships. You can try it on money. And I spent I spent a couple years really devoting to my own healing and my own practice. And my mentorship program with my tapping mentor started later in 2013. And in early 2014, my father got really sick. And the year that he passed away, he had 17 heart attacks. So you can imagine the amount of pain that he was in. And I'll never forget the day that I finished my 3rd level training and I went to see him, and he was so sick in bed. He hadn't eaten, he couldn't get up. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try this tapping thing on him, because what do we have to lose? So I took his hand and I tapped, and I just started using languaging and words that I assumed he felt, which was with pain at that time, and tapped through the points for him. And within half an hour, we watched him, not just me, but his partner at the time, get up out of bed for the first time in days, walk to the bathroom, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know what you just did, but you changed something. He ate. It was phenomenal. And I was like, wow, okay, whatever this thing is if it can help my dad, who is in severe pain, get up and feel and function, then there has to be something to this. So I ended up continuing my training, got fully certified as an advanced practitioner. And then in 2016, I started an online business. I started what's called Tapping Tuesdays on Facebook, where I would show up and tap every Tuesday on Facebook Live on a different topic that was relevant to me or the women in my world. And the transformation was insane. I started getting messages week after week of women saying, wow, this helped me heal my body. Wow, this got rid of my anxiety, or reporting that they were able to be visible in their business for the first time because this technique was working so quickly. And so in 2019, I opened my first round of tapping certification, which was huge for me, because I didn't want to teach it the way everyone else taught it. I wanted to teach people how to use tapping to create the life they wanted, not just heal the life they had. And the McDonald manifestation method was born, which is now today known as Tapping School. And all these years later, we have certified hundreds and hundreds of women all over the world teaching and sharing this work. So that's a little bit about me. I'd love to know a little bit about you. I look forward to hearing in the comments or sending me a message after if any of this resonates, if there's any overlapping synchronicities with our stories. We are all human. We all go through challenges, and tapping is something that can make those challenges smoother. Doesn't mean you're not going to have challenges in life. It just helps you navigate them and build resiliency in this really beautiful way. Awesome. So I'm seeing some of these comments from those of you that are live for your intentions, and a couple of them are to improve and support your body and your mental health. Oh, well, tapping can definitely help you with that. Your health and strengthening your core. Beautiful. Good morning, everyone. Hello. You would love to help tap into my most authentic, creative, confident, abundant self. Oh my gosh, Jenny, you're going to love day 3 when we tap into your wildly wealthy woman. Yes, you're going to love it. It feels so potent to be doing this coming off of the new moon. I know, it's new energy today. What a great, great time for us to dive in together. Alita's here. Yes, she is one of our alumni tapping school students. She has used it to heal her childhood with shame and guilt. Yeah, and her intention is to welcome and deserve the transformation into my beautiful yet powerful life, not only for me, but my family too. Yes, you are, Alita. Thank you for sharing your intentions. I see a lot about health. Okay, well, we will dive in to health tomorrow. You're going to love that conversation. We're going to tap in person together on this experience as well. It won't just be me talking the whole time. Don't worry. And I really appreciate you sharing, the areas that you're most interested in. All right, so this was, my breakthrough moment that I just shared. That was me tapping with my dad in the hospital. Um, and now we're going to dive into the history of tapping. So in the late 1970s, there was a psychologist by the name of Roger Callahan, and he had a client named Mary who had an extreme phobia and fear of water. He worked with her for several years without much relief, and he had an awareness of Western psychology and Eastern acupuncture. And so one day he thought, let's try blending those two things together. And he had her sit by a pool, tap on acupuncture points, so as you can see me doing right now, and start talking and sharing about this fear. And, for her, I think in particular, it was linked to a certain instance in her life. Something had happened at a certain point in time. He had her bring that up and talk to him about it, tell him about what she experienced while tapping on these acupuncture points. And to his amazement, in under 2 hours, her phobia, her fear of water completely diminished, and she was able to submerge herself in his pool, which is just wild, especially after working on something for so long. To see it shift that quickly was, groundbreaking. And so that's when EFT tapping, emotional freedom techniques, was born. And he had a colleague, so Roger Callahan, who was that original psychologist, had a colleague named Gary Craig who was learning from him, and he was the one to name it EFT tapping. We'll get into more of that in a bit. Anyway, I love this story. It shows how fast tapping works. It shows if you have been someone that's been drawn to traditional therapies, just blending this somatic tool in can really enhance your results, can really help you move through things faster, because somatic means we're bringing the body and the mind together, working in harmony, which is like a superpower. Let's talk about for a moment the things to try tapping on. As I mentioned before, you can tap on anything and everything. So the common ones are, at the beginning, I find people coming in as often working on the body. So that can be physical pain. It's famous for helping people get rid of physical pain, back pain, nerve pain, dental pain. I have seen gut issues. I have seen real life people in my tapping training release 30 years of back pain. Yeah, it's incredible. Releasing anxiety is the next one. And, personally, that was my number one thing that I came to tapping for, was my body symptoms and my anxiety. Within a few rounds of tapping, we can significantly reduce anxiety, if not get rid of it altogether. Things like PTSD. So if you have past trauma, tapping is a very gentle, safe, and effective way to help you process that and release it from the body and from the mind and heart. When we have hard things happen, they live in us, and they don't have to, doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean that tapping doesn't get rid of it. It just helps us shift our perspective on what happened and release any trapped emotions that are stuck in the body. Other things I love to tap on is self-esteem, confidence, especially for female entrepreneurs, women wanting to build a big business, having the confidence and belief in yourself to do it. Tapping for weight loss. I do have a tapping for weight loss program that is phenomenal. Things like food cravings, fears, phobias, wealth and abundance is a big topic that we tap on in our world. The Wildly Wealthy Woman work on Wednesday will connect you with that. And fears and phobias like fear of speaking, fear of flying, phobias of spiders, that's a whole niche in itself. Sleep insomnia, very popular for tapping. If you have issues going to sleep at night or staying asleep. Test anxiety, releasing big emotions, relationships, another big topic we talk about in my world. If you're going through a divorce or you're wanting to manifest or attract in love. Sports performance, burnout recovery, worthiness, tapping with your kids. There's so many things you can tap on, literally anything and everything. But I would love to hear from you. What are you most interested on tapping on? What would you love to try tapping on together? So you can go ahead and leave that in the comments. Wherever you're listening to this, because I'm always creating resources, always creating experiences for you to come tap with me. And I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'm seeing some messages here online. I'd love to try tapping for body pain, cravings, and weight loss. Oh, well, we have the programs for you. It is Yeah, it's a whole other world of tapping. And it's amazing tapping with somebody that is going through that because the results are so tangible. You're like, wow, I had a pain of a 10 before, and now that pain is a 2, or that pain is completely gone. And I'll never forget the first time I watched it happen was in my tapping training, my certification that I took. And a man who had been hit by a bus 30 years prior and had done everything to try and get rid of his back pain, from physical therapy to everything. But he had never looked at the emotional trauma, and he tapped on it with my trainer live and got rid of his 30 years of back pain. There's something called the apex effect. We teach it in tapping school, where it was gone. It was like he forgot that how bad it was at the beginning to the end. It was so quick and so cool to see how fast it worked. So yeah, that is definitely something we can talk about. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna keep rolling. Some frequently asked questions we get. So how does it work? Do you need to tap on me, or do I tap on myself? So this is a great question. One of our tapping trainers, Laura, often says, tapping's like a game of Simon Says. So I tap on an acupuncture point on my body, and then you copy me by tapping on an acupuncture point on your body. And while we're tapping on these points, we're repeating statements. So when we start off, we always start with the same statement. Even though I feel however you're feeling today, I love and accept myself anyway. And then we go through the face and body points. I'm going to get to that later on, but you tap on yourself. I'm not tapping on you. Second question, are there any negative side effects to tapping? And the answer is no. Tapping is one of the most safe and efficient ways to process your emotions. There's no negative side effects to this technique. People often say, is there a limit to how much I can tap? Nope. If you're going through some deep trauma healing, I would say keep it to one big session a day, but I tap daily. Honestly, the more the merrier. It's moving energy. It's moving any stagnant emotions out. And so the important things to know is that you want to stay hydrated. You want to make sure you're having some protein after a tapping session, and that it does lower blood pressure. So if you do have blood pressure issues, just something to be aware of, but not so significantly that it would ever endanger you. It's just, it really relaxes the nervous system. So it's going to calm everything way, way down. What will I experience when I tap? The last question is really important because everyone's going to have a different experience. So some people you might see them start crying and have a big emotional release. Some people are all of a sudden really tired and you'll start to see them yawn. I always say yawning is not an insult in my world. It's a good sign. It means your nervous system is relaxing and releasing. Some people feel sleepy. Some people get things like burping. And some people are like, oh, nothing at all. I just felt that was interesting. There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to tapping, but I will say the secret to success in tapping is in your specific wording. So when we tap together on this experience, what you'll experience is global tapping. We're going to be using words that, it's kind of global, general words. If I was tapping with you one-on-one, I'd be writing down your words and feeding them back to you. So you would feel it resonate on a much deeper level, and you might notice things shift or release faster. I'm seeing some more comments come in. You would love to try tapping on insomnia, fear, worthiness, anxiety. Yes, those are great topics. I would love to focus on PTSD for myself and tapping with my children and other children. Oh, tapping with kids is phenomenal. I have a 12-year-old daughter who I tap with, and she now taps with her friends. It is so, so cool. The other thing I didn't add on that page, but tapping can also be used to call in and create things in your life. So I've used tapping to manifest I have many dream houses, my dream partner, trips. I have manifested all sorts of things tapping on the topic, and I'm going to teach you that on Wednesday, but that's my favorite way to approach it is like, what do you want with your life? What are we creating? What are you intending for yourself? And teaching you how to use it in that way. All right, let's talk about the tapping points briefly. So the points are like an highway. Think of it like an energy highway running through your body. So they start at the top of the head and they go all the way down your body, down to the tips of your fingers, down to the bottom of your feet. It's like an energy highway running through your system. And so our tapping points start at the side of the hand. It's called the karate chop point. And we stay here for what's called 3 rounds. And I'll teach you that when we tap together tomorrow. And then we move to the top of the head. It's right at the crown of the head. Then we move to the eyebrow point. It's right where your eyebrows begin. And then we go to the side of the eye where your eyebrows end. Then you go underneath the eye. You'll notice I already took a deep breath. It will relax you just tapping on these points. Then underneath the nose. Then underneath the mouth. And then on your collarbone, just right underneath where those nodules are in the collarbone. And then underneath your arms, which is for a woman where your bra strap would end. And then underneath your chest, right underneath the bra again. And then the last point is tapping your wrists together. Okay, so you don't have to memorize them. Every time you tap with me, I'm going to say the points out loud. When you are tapping, if you are like, oh, I'm just trying to really focus on the points, I'd say focus more on the feeling than on the points. The points will come. Notice the shift in the body that you're experiencing. Okay. So now I'm going to bring on and introduce to you somebody special. Oh, wait, before I do that, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The other important piece to know is how and the how of tapping, as I mentioned, is that we always start by tapping on the side of the hand. And this is called the karate chop point. And when we tap on the side of the hand, we start off by saying a statement, even though I feel, and then you say however you feel. And then you end by saying, I love and accept myself anyway. Okay, so every time we tap, we start on the side of the hand and we say, even though I feel a little tired today, I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I feel sometimes it's like I'm just not good enough or I can't do it all, I love and accept myself anyway. So depending what you're tapping on is the languaging you would use, but we always start tapping on the side of the hand and we do that 3 times. Then we move to the top of the head and the body points and we go through 3 stages. All right, so first stage is where you have the opportunity to really vent. And this is one of my favorite things about tapping is you get to get out whatever's been on your heart, whatever's been on your mind, and you get to say it like it is. So if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling tired, just be like, oh, I'm so tired, or I'm so anxious, or I really don't want to do this thing today, or I'm really worried about my kids. This is your chance to say whatever you need to say, to get it out. You don't need to filter yourself. You don't need to fake it. We're not emotionally bypassing. We're just getting it all out. So tapping is very activating. It might bring up more. You might be like, ooh, I also want to let go of this frustration or this fear. So that venting stage is really, really powerful. The next stage is the letting go stage. So our languaging will change. You'll say, even though I'm really tired, I'm ready to let it go and feel more energized instead. Or even though I've been feeling anxious, I'm ready to let it go and feel more relaxed instead. And the tapping points through the face and body are going to sound like I'm open to letting it go. I'm ready to release this worry. I'm ready to release this fear. I'm open to a new possibility. Okay. And then the last stage of tapping is an affirmation stage. And that is when your subconscious brain is primed and prepped for affirmation. So this is like when you're saying anything is possible. I can do, be, and have it all. So you would be saying this at this round and really believing it. And the reason why I would know to bring in this stage is all from the rating system and scale that we use. So whenever I'm tapping with someone and say we're working on anxiety, I always ask them on a scale of 0 to 10, how high is that anxiety right now? And they might say like, oh, it's an 8. Okay, well, if it's an 8, I know that we're at the venting stage. So if your number is between a 10 and an 8, you need to vent. You need to say all the reasons you feel anxious. And then if they're like, okay, well, now my number after tapping has went down to a 6. Great. If they're between a 4 and a 7, I know they're at the letting go stage. So I'm going to say, I'm ready to let this go. I'm open to releasing this now. And then after that round of tapping, we check in again. They're like, you know what? My anxiety is down to a 3. I feel really calm and peaceful. Okay, well, now I know your subconscious is ready to receive an affirmation. And I'm going to say things like, I feel calm and peaceful. I feel rested and relaxed. It's safe for me to let this anxiety go. I feel so much calmer now. And we're going to say it. When we say it, you're going to feel it. It's going to resonate. So that's a quick, fast version of this. But basics of tapping is always starting at the side of the hand, starting with a statement, even though I feel, fill in the blank, I love and accept myself anyway. And then moving through these face and body points and expressing yourself depending on which stage you're at. So don't worry, we're going to go way more into this as the days go on, but this is the very, very basic formula you need to know. All right, now it is time for me to introduce one of my favorite people in the tapping school community, in the tapping world, really. And that is my dear friend, Jacque Acree. So I'm going to just do a quick moment where I'm going to stop share. I'm going to invite her into the room, and she's going to go into the science. And this part, you know, people every year tell me this is one of their favorite parts of this training because it's mind-blowing. So welcome to the stage, fellow Jacque.
That's funny. Fellow Jacque. I know. It's like, how many Jackies can there possibly be? Is it coming through audio?
I don't know if we can hear you. I can't hear you yet.
Hang on. Let's see. It's good
Let
on
me know, you guys, on Facebook if you can hear Jacque. I can't hear you on my. Oh,
good to go.
I think I can hear you on Facebook. So maybe it's just our Zoom side.
Oh. Well, you have to be able to hear me.
I'm going to let you dive in. Go ahead, Jacque. Take the floor.
Okay, we'll go with this for now, and hopefully we can get Zoom sorted out. So, hi, everyone. Yes, I am the second Jacque of the day, the second and I think final Jacque of the day. Okay, we're going to dive a little bit into some sciencey stuff, which may or may not be your thing. The reason I think Jacque likes to bring me in for this part is because I am admittedly a little woo skeptical. And that prevented me from even being willing to try tapping for a number of years. I have a BA in counseling, and I'm not a licensed therapist, but I do have a psychology background, and I just thought tapping sounded very hokey. It sounded very weird. I mean, doesn't it kind of, that you tap on your body and talk about your thoughts and feelings? It's a little out there at first. So it took me a number of years before I was even willing to try it. And honestly, if I can save you those years, then my job here would be done. So what, for me, science and understanding how something works creates a sense of safety around it. And honestly, I'm just a very insatiable, like I have so much curiosity. And so for me, it scratches an itch. And maybe you're like me, and even if you're not, it will just validate how and why this tool actually works from a more biological and scientific perspective. So I inadvertently became this like go-to gal for the science behind tapping. I'm not a researcher. I am not a scientist. Like I said, just insatiable curiosity. So I'll tell you how I first finally, my first experience with tapping, like Jacque, I had my own experience of it, which is what helped me to finally be willing to like take a deeper look and led me to the place where I'm at now, which is like a really thriving business. I was in Jackie's first round back when it was the McDonald manifestation method. It wasn't even called tapping school back then. So I was one of the first. In my memory, there's like 4 of us, and it was such an exciting opportunity. I'd been talking to Jacque, I think, for a year, saying like, when are you going to do it? Because I looked at some other options that I really wanted to learn with you. So what originally helped me to be willing to go deeper into it was I was actually at the event I met Jacque at, and this was years and years ago. We are lucky enough to live within the same-ish community. Like there's a bit of a drive between us, but we might end up physically in the same space sometimes. And this is when I first met you, Jacque. And something happened at that event that gave me a really big overreaction. So has that ever happened for any of you who are watching this, whether live or on the replay? Like, have you ever had something happen and your emotional and even physical response is just really disproportionate to what happened? So for me, I felt like flooded with, you know, I jokingly call it rage, like a little bit, but it was like a 12 out of 10 on the anger scale. Like I was, because anger is a spectrum. We can feel mildly irritated right up to infuriated and raged. I was like way beyond like just a little mad. So, and I felt it come into my body. Like I felt flushed, like my whole body got red and like hot. My heart was pounding, I was sweating. And so, because I was in a room with a bunch of other people, I had to remove myself from that room. I just felt like I was like emanating this feeling and it was overtaking me. So I went to the public bathroom at the venue we were at, and I had been taught enough about tapping, basically literally what you were just taught now. Like Jackie walked you through it. I knew enough about, even though I love and accept myself, talk about the truth about how I feel to start with. And I locked myself in this little bathroom stall and I fumbled around in there doing the little bit that I had just been taught, just talking about like, I am so mad, I'm so angry, I don't know why, this feels terrible. And just tapped and talked, really like muttering under my breath in this public bathroom stall. And because of the location, I don't know how long it took me, but it could not have been long. I was in a public bathroom stall. So how long could I have been in there for? Like 3 minutes, maybe. Plus, when you're angry, like you know how you're fast, right? So I was like tapping and like just like super fast. And I had this like calm just descend over me. My heart rate slowed down. That flush started to like dissipate. My thoughts became way more clear as that emotion, literally emotion, the root of emotion, the word emotion means to move through, like the emotion moved through my body. And I was able to connect the dots between like what was triggering me in that moment and the past, which was like overlaying the present. So this is like way too deep. I'm not going to go any further into that story because it's not what we're here to talk about. But I just give you that example because Jackie always says this, that tapping's better experienced than explained. And the experience really does matter in the sense like, how does it feel for you? Does it work? Well, not does it work for you, but what's your experience of it when you're using the tool? And not all of your experiences are going to be that mountaintop moment. I've only had that kind of experience with tapping, and I am now like a certified practitioner. So I use this with myself and obviously with clients all the time, this tool. And I've only had that experience maybe 3 times in the last few years. And I have theories as to why, but it was a really intense moment. It was a gift to get that like from a 12 out of 10 down to a 0. And that thing is completely neutralized, that past trigger. So that's what captivated my curiosity about like, how did that happen? What captivated my curiosity about like, and so effectively. How did that happen? And I think that's one of the best. I'm getting feedback, Jackie. Can you hear it? Yeah, she's got it. That's, I think, one of the things that's most, what's the word I want to, like, I guess attractive about tapping is just, it is effective. And we have studies to show why when it's held against, like studied against a gold standard of therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy or EMDR, like these other therapies that we know work based on, again, science, not just subjective psychological feedback, like I feel better, but also through the science of studying the tool. So when it's held up against these gold standards, we know it has similar, if not better results, meaning like it matches the results, but it works faster. And I'm all for feeling better faster. Like if it can be done in half the amount of time, quite literally, then sign me up. So I think that's kind of why it's picking up so much speed and getting so much attention. Wouldn't that make sense? If we have a tool that works faster and just as well, aren't we like, yeah, why do I need to like, swirl around in here if I can just like do my thing and hop out and get on with my life, my day? All right, so let's talk a little bit about, I've got some notes here because I want to keep myself on track. The physical aspect of tapping is an active ingredient. It's incredibly important. So what I mean is we wouldn't just take the formula of what we're saying, and Jackie's correct that the specific words are really important, but just those specific words alone aren't what's giving you the result you experience when you tap. It is the physical act of tapping on these acupoints that is an active ingredient. It's delivering a biological result. And so what I mean is something is happening in your body, not just in your mind. So it's a mind and body tool. And I think that, remember I mentioned earlier, like I'm woo skeptical. So I think that probably where tapping has some of its roots in a bit of a woo, I'm saying like WOO, like a woo reputation, is it used to be considered under the umbrella of energy psychology. So because we're working with this meridian system, similar to acupuncture, which you may have tried or heard about. And that meridian system, I mean, it's ancient understanding this, that there is something going on in the body, but used to be considered energy. And now we have more recent research that's showing that it's actually called the primovascular system. And it's this vascular system in your body that's literally a map that can be seen visually. It's tiny, but it's there. So you can see this vascular system. And then these points along the body, they're like concentrated in this vascular system. So when you stimulate those specific points, so the points are important as well. It's not the same as like tapping on your forearm or your elbow or like pick some random, like your earlobe. That's not what we're talking about when we tap. The very specific points matter. And that's based on studying. So I think that's why it probably has a bit of a woo reputation, because we just didn't understand how it worked. And because of that whole energy idea, it was like, well, it's kind of this woo, like weirdo thing. Again, whether you have that perspective or not, the reason that's important is because we needed the research to validate it for like the rest of the world. So some people were willing to accept it, but the rest of people, like if we wanted this to be more widely accepted as a therapeutic tool, then, and this is why this might matter to you specifically, like how do we get tapping covered under, let's say, if you have extended healthcare benefits? This is why we have to understand a little bit more of how it works. Otherwise, there's just going to be pushback forever. So there's usually a lag between understanding that something works and understanding how. If we look at penicillin, that's a good example. We understood that penicillin worked, and it worked incredibly well. Like, remember the gift that penicillin was to the medical world and us as humans, like as a person who needs penicillin sometimes, so grateful we have it. But back when it was discovered, we didn't understand like how it worked. We just knew that it did. And then it was studied and we understood why. So there's this lag, and tapping has been around for about 50 years, about 5 decades-ish. But there's been about like a 20-ish year lag about understanding that it did work. Like Jackie gave you some of the history about the first experiences with tapping when it was first developed and how remarkable the results were, unlike anything that had been seen yet. But then understanding like why and how. So like I mentioned, there's this meridian system in your body. It's not an energy system, it's a vascular system. And when you tap on those points, what's happening is you're sending a deactivation signal to your amygdala, meaning you're calming that fear and stress center of your brain down, literally, almost instantaneously. There's a decade-long study done by Harvard University that showed that when you stimulate these acupoints, whether through a needle or through your own fingertips, right? A needle would be acupuncture, of course, but we can do this for ourselves by tapping. You're sending a nearly instantaneous calming signal to that amygdala part of your brain, which is where it's a primal response to stress and fear. And when you're in that part of your brain, you really have difficulty accessing the part of your brain where perspective, creativity, more logical, rational thinking, where that part of your brain, where that lives in your brain, it just kind of goes offline when you're living in that amygdala because you're all wrapped up in that fear and that stress response. So when you're tapping, you're sending that calming signal to that part of your brain. That's why, as Jackie said, you might feel yourself start to relax, the tension starts to leave your body, your breathing might slow down a little. What else is happening in the body as you do this physically, biologically, is you're regulating up to 72 genes. So you're down regulating some, you're up regulating others. You are also lowering stress hormones like cortisol, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So literally cortisol is going down as you're tapping. Hang on, let me check my notes if there's something else I wanted to mention. The nervous system is being regulated. I want to mention that for a moment because nervous system regulation is like the hot girl in town. Everybody loves to talk about it now, and it's for good reason. It needs to be considered, right? The nervous system is really important. However, it's like this maybe misunderstanding of like what regulation means. Regulation doesn't mean you're perfectly calm, like a flat line all the time. My question to my clients is always like, okay, but how quickly can you come back to your baseline? And what is your baseline? So, how can I make this really simple for you? If you're kind of chronically in that dysregulated stress response, so feeling a lot of fight or flight, which is, you know, a lot of avoidance, which anxiety makes us avoid. If you're in a lot of avoidance, a lot of overwhelm, or a lot of agitation in your body, which is like a fight or flight response, like you just can feel tense muscles, or maybe your body is often like kind of collapsed. So it's like a lot of guarding, lethargy, feeling heavy. You might be in that really like chronically high or chronically low part of your nervous system. And what we want to do is widen that window. So it's your day is it's gonna go up and down. We're human beings. So you're gonna have stress and then you're gonna come back down, and you're gonna have stress, and it just kind of goes up and down. Anyone else have kids? Like, hello, parenting, I'm like that all the time. Depending what's going on with my kids, I might be a higher stress, right? Just getting up in the beginning of the day, your stress level might be a little higher, and then can you recover? So tapping is a tool that regulates your nervous system so your recovery matches the heightened stress. The stress itself isn't the problem, but you don't want to live up there in that higher stress response. You also don't want to live down here where it's kind of it's like collapsed. I'm trying to keep it really simple for you guys since we're not in a nervous system class at the moment, but what tapping will do for you is help you to regulate. All right, so Jackie's got a beautiful slide up here. This book is, if you're interested in the sciencey stuff, this book is actually very easy to read. Dr. Peta Stapleton is one of the leading researchers globally. She works at Bond University in Australia. She's reputable, and like she's a scientist doing these studies. So these are not studies like Jackie and I are doing in our backyards. It's like reputable science. So that's a great book. You can either read that book, you can watch a TED Talk by her. Like anything with Dr. Peta Stapleton is reputable. So if you're looking for sciencey stuff, I'd say that's a great resource for you. Here, let's talk about the cortisol thing. So I already mentioned tapping works really, really fast, right? Decades-long study done by Harvard. It shows instantaneous, nearly instantaneous calming signals sent to the brain. So what else is happening? Well, cortisol, which is one of your main stress hormones, when we wake up in the morning, we want a little bit of cortisol. Like, let's not villainize cortisol because it's sort of like people love to talk about like, oh, cortisol is bad. We need cortisol. Like, it's okay. It's not a bad thing in and of itself, but most of us have way too much chronically. So you want a little bit when you get up in the morning to help you get up and start your day. But you don't want it to run high throughout your entire day. And so 1 hour of tapping was compared in a study to psychotherapy and also just resting. So they had these 3 groups, they studied them, and to see what the results were with each one of those methods. So resting or getting psychotherapy or getting 1 hour of tapping. And they tested cortisol in saliva. And the EFT group's cortisol level dropped by an average of 24%. Some people's cortisol dropped as much as 43%. It's a really, really significant reduction in cortisol. And you don't have to tap 1 hour to get good results. So we don't have measurements that I'm personally aware of for 10 minutes of tapping, but a lot of the tapping audios that I share with my clients are 10 minutes long because you can feel it. Like I was in that bathroom stall 3 minutes and got a great result. So don't let the 1 hour thing throw you off. That was just for the purpose of the study. I also mentioned efficacy. I actually have a different study I wanted to mention for that one, Jackie, because I really love this one. How it works really, really fast. Hang on, let me look. Okay, so because we were just mentioning 1 hour of tapping, but I also want to look at longevity for like how many sessions do you need to get a result? That's sometimes really important, especially with what some of you were commenting in the Facebook group, like what you want to use tapping for, the benefits you'd like to receive. So how long would you maybe need to tap on something to get some kind of a result versus some of these other methods that are out there? And there was a study done measuring stress and depression and anxiety and short-term memory loss, heart coherence, and heart rate variability. That's a whole lot of stuff to say they were looking for positive outcomes if there were positive outcomes on those things. So all of those things I mentioned, I'm going to mention them again: stress, depression, anxiety, short-term memory loss, heart coherence, and heart rate variability. And they were measuring EFT against CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the gold standard. So EFT is often up against CBT to see how it performs. And significant positive outcomes were found in both groups. That's important to notice because there's a reason CBT is the gold standard. It does work. Okay, so significant positive outcomes and all those things I just listed were found in both groups. However, the EFT group, they only needed 3 sessions for those positive outcomes, and the CBT group needed 8. That's the difference. So it works up to up to half the amount of time, maybe a little bit more depending on the study. And we've seen that time and time again. That's just one little tiny study. The other thing I always like to mention, again, this is just a Jacque note, like this is just my own observation because I've personally done CBT as a client and I've also studied it from the counseling perspective. Do you guys even know what CBT is? Like a lot of people have tried it. So without going into it, the thing that I have always personally struggled with, and it's not just CBT, I struggle with this if I go to physiotherapy, for example, for my knee. The homework that you're assigned to do to continue getting the results is really important. Are you guys tracking me? Like, has anybody had to go? I broke my hand once and I had to do exercises to get my hand back. Like, you gotta like work it for it to work. And with tapping, you get the results in real time. So it's not like if you were to, let's say, hire Jacque as a tapping practitioner and come to her for a session, she's not going to assign you homework that you then need to go do for the next like 3 weeks to keep going with that for results. I think that's really important. Again, just in the world that we live in now, I don't know if it's just human nature or how busy we are, but I'm terrible at doing homework like that. So that's, I think, a really just a side benefit. The last thing I'll mention is that it actually lasts. So the long-lasting effects, because this kind of feeds into that homework comment I just made. If you don't maintain things with like CBT, it's easy to go back to your past baseline. And with EFT in studies, again, I'm not just saying this like casually, like, well, what I think is, they've seen in studies under fMRI that the brain areas that used to light up before the EFT was applied to that specific thing. In this case, we were talking about food cravings. The study was on food cravings. So the brain areas that used to light up when when you crave that food, let's say chocolate, they just don't light up anymore. So it's been de-associated. And you can see that under fMRI. And after 2 years, those changes were still there. And the group that had received CBT in this particular study didn't have the same long-lasting results. Especially not if they didn't keep up with doing the work that they were doing. So the changes really last. Those cravings remained resolved even 2 years later. And the brain under that fMRI, it looks like calm and relaxed instead of lit up when shown those foods. My story with my rage tapping in the bathroom stall, I said like that trigger totally neutralized. It just doesn't bother me anymore. It's almost like it's how the brain works. So without going on and on into how that actually happens, if you're curious, this book is a great place to start. Or I'm happy to chat with you about that more offline, but it changes the way your brain processes information, and it includes your hippocampus as well, which is your memory center. So it just changes your relationship with the thing that's triggering you unconsciously that you're not even aware of in this particular case. So that's a whole bunch. Jacque, do you have questions that you want to chat about? Is there anything in the Facebook group that's coming up? Anything else I can offer that would be helpful? Oh, she probably can't hear me. Let me see.
I am just juggling technology here, but no, that was presented so well, so beautifully. Thank you, Jacque. I am going to give it a moment. If anybody has a question for Jacque in the comments, feel free to ask it. And I will share on this PDF, we go into it a little bit further. So if you're like, oh, she said something that I missed, we dive into it in this PDF, which you're going to get on the replay as well and in the email. So, we talk about the acupuncture points and how it works. One of the things I do mention is that tapping can be used in 2 important ways. So for immediate relief as a coping tool to manage distressing emotions, and then it can be used for like a deeper level of healing, which is working with things like your inner child or past trauma. And that's what you'll notice inside of our community, is that it's a good blend of both. Like sometimes you just need something in the moment to calm you down. And sometimes you're seeing a pattern in your life continue to show up over and over again. And you're like, why is this here? And tapping can help you get to the root of that and experience much deeper healing. We also teach you how to tap in and create future memories. And again, more on that to come. But I just wanted to add that little note. And Jackie, did you want to add anything to that as well? I'm just going to mute myself if you want to share anything else.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that. I think that's exactly it. Like I often will describe it like we can use tapping preventatively. So a little bit of tapping can go a really long way with that regulation of your nervous system, widening that window of tolerance, which we didn't talk about here. So if that doesn't make sense to you, just think the version of you that you feel best being. I don't personally like to call it your best self, because for best is such a tricky word. Like, what is your best? Your best is who you are in any given moment, usually. Like, you're doing the best you can, literally. But we want to do sometimes better, and we know we can do better, but we're feeling like it's not accessible. And then what we usually do is we feel shame and guilt and judgment, and we're really hard on ourselves. So we can use tapping preventatively. A little bit of tapping, it just goes a really long way. That's why I created like my free session that I offer is called Start Your Day Calm, Clear, and Grounded. And it's just this little bit that you can use. It doesn't have to be at the start of the day. There's 10 minutes only. You can have audio or video, and you just do this little like emotional hygiene and stress hygiene. So you process whatever's going on for you in the moment, whether you're feeling really stressed or not very stressed at all. There's always something. So preventatively, it's like vitamins that way. It's kind of how I think about it, or other things I do for my health preventatively and proactively. And then, so that's like your vitamin kind of toolkit, but you can also think about tapping as okay. And then sometimes you need first aid, right? Sometimes you need, like in the moment, you need some support. And so you can use it for that as well. And then yes, also like I'm going really far with this analogy that I've not thought about at all, but like I'm thinking like surgically or something, like more of a treatment, which is kind of what you were referring to, Jackie. So you can use tapping in so many different ways. And I really want to encourage people, if the first place you start is just by accessing the tool in those moments where you're like, I really need something like right now, or I want to bring something into my habits, my practices that support me, where I'm doing it a little bit more proactively because I know life is going to get lifey. It just always is. Whether you're stuck in traffic and it's lifey in a very tiny way because you're trying to get somewhere and you're late, or the big stuff that comes around. Either way, life has enough stress as it is. So what gift can you give yourself to support yourself through it? And this is just such an easily accessible tool that's been proven to work and work really, really fast. So I hope this has been helpful. Happy to answer people's questions if they have them after. You can reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram. You can hit me up with email, grab that free session if that appeals to you. And I hope you really have fun over this next week with Jackie. Wait for day 3. That'll be really extra fun for sure.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Jackie. It's been so fun, as always, sharing this with you. And in this PDF, you're going to see where we go a little bit deeper into EFT in the body. And tomorrow we're going to dive into that, completely. We're going to tap. We're going to notice where in the body are you holding on to stress and anxiety, or you're holding on to physical pain, and show you in real time how tapping works to take you from, say, an 8 or a 10 of discomfort down to maybe it's just a 5 or a 2 or a 0, completely gone. So I really encourage you, now that today you've got a bit of knowledge around the studies, the science, we do talk a little bit about the limbic system. And Jackie, I thought, do you want to just explain to them briefly, what is the limbic system? How does that work?
Oh man, I'd have to remember how to explain the limbic system in a short and punchy way. I don't think I can do that justice right now, but I can kind of explain about the emotional part, which is what's connected to the limbic system, if that's helpful. That's I use tapping primarily with my clients. Like that's what my programs focus on, is really creating that emotional agility. And what I was saying earlier about like that favorite version of you that when I ask people, what's in your way? Almost everybody says me. like the only thing stopping me is me. I'm stopping me. And usually if you dig underneath of that, what people mean is, oh, like my perfectionism, my procrastination, or my self-doubt, or my anxiety, my overwhelm. And so we have this experience of ourselves that's like, oh, there's just so much in my way. And you're in this really emotional, whether it feels emotional, you can feel disconnected from your emotions as well, which is a different piece of this, but you feel just like blocked. And yet you're kind of like living in this like toddler version of you a lot of the time, or like a younger version of you who just didn't know. Now we're going to get into parts of self, which isn't even the question that you asked me, but it's like this younger version of you that you feel like I feel like I'm being taken over almost. Like this doesn't feel like, I don't feel like myself almost. And so if you want to be able to access, like I said, that perspective, the more logical, critical thinking part of you, the part of you who might know that there isn't a tiger, or I live in Canada and literally there's a forest behind me. So like a bear, there's no bear that's coming to get you when you are going to be, let's say, visible on social media, if that's something you're trying to stretch towards or whatever it is. We're living in this like chronically activated stress response. And I would say like our modern way of living is not a very conducive way to be human. Like it's not designed to be kind to your nervous system or even you as a human being. And so what do we do then to manage that? Like what's available? And this one tool is a very quick, efficient, and supportive way, and it builds on itself. Like Jackie, I know you would say this. So as someone who's been tapping for a long time, I would say this for myself as well. You start to just be so familiar with that version of you that it's not like you have to keep working with it at the same level. Like we still tap, yes, and life presents its lifiness all the time. But once you learn how to have that like wider, in the nervous system world, it's called ventral vagal, the place where you live, where you have access to, like I said, that creativity, you feel socially connected, you feel very open instead of like hunched and protective or always agitated. It just really soothes that part of you, and it's a way to take care of yourself. So not the answer that you were asking for, but I think it all relates to essentially what you're saying here.
Yes, thank you so much. And, you know, one of the things I remember when I first started tapping, learning was that tapping soothes the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for your fight flight response. So you don't even have to know the words you're saying. You don't have to believe in it to work. You could just tap on these points. And you probably notice when I was teaching you, you'll take a deep breath, you'll yawn, you're bringing blood flow to these really important areas in the brain and body that's making everything move more efficiently, more effectively. And then we combine this Western psychology component to it, and it's honestly like magic. The two together are phenomenal. So I am conscious of the time. I just wanted to touch on this. All of that information is in this PDF that you're getting in your email afterwards. But I wanted to hear from you that's here today, listening live, whether you're live, you're on the replay. But what is your number one takeaway from today? Was there anything that you heard Jackie share, you heard myself share, that you were like, wow, that's really cool? Whether it's the cortisol levels and how fast it decreases cortisol, whether it was how long tapping works, right? We have, if you read that book, The Science of Tapping, there's studies around food cravings and weight loss, and women like a year later coming back in and doing all the tests and seeing, wow, like the staying power of this work is there. Personally, when you were sharing, Jackie, about the staying power, I worked on this with a craving around coffee that I had for years. I had an addiction to coffee, and my body, I loved it, but my body didn't love it. And so when I started tapping, I thought, well, let's try tapping on everything. Let's try tapping on coffee. And I did it. And it was deeply linked to a relationship with my mom. You know, my parents' lives were very busy when we were young. And the only time my mom would stop and really sit down was to drink her coffee in the morning. And so at a young age, I learned to stop and drink coffee with my mom in the morning. And we had this special bonding time. And through tapping on it, I realized, well, I can still just take time for me and my mom and sit there without needing to put something in my body that literally felt like poison. And so in 2016, I stopped drinking coffee, haven't had a sip since. I love the taste of it, but like I said, my body didn't. And so that's just another like practical story and way that I've used it. And again, the staying power, like I have no desire to have it anymore. I've had clients tap on things like alcohol, and they've put a glass of red wine in front of them. And like at the beginning, 10 out of 10, they wanted to drink it. And in 3 rounds of tapping, couldn't stand the smell, they wanted it away from them. They're like, I don't want to drink it. That disgusts me. So it's so fascinating. And so my encouragement is for you today to just try tapping on something, or pick something you want to try tapping on. You can look at that list that you saw earlier. You can think about your life. What are you most excited to try tapping on? So I'd love to hear from you, your takeaway from today, and what you're excited to try tapping on. We're going to do that tomorrow on day 2 for tapping in the body. I can't wait to see you there. And as celebration for those of you here live, I am going to give away access to the Abundance Tapping Bundle. So I'm going to pick a name from somebody who is here live today. If you're in the Facebook group, I will tag you. There are prizes every single day. So each day I'm giving away a bundle. Make sure you're on these. If you can be here live, great. And I would love it if you invited friends. So if you could invite a friend, share this with them, invite them to the group, send them the podcast recording, whatever you want to do. But it's because of you we get this mission out to more people, into the hands, hearts, and homes of people worldwide. And Jackie, thank you so much for being my co-facilitator today. You are one of my most trusted resources for tapping. It was an honor to always work with you and share this stage with you. And I'm seeing these comments come in. Definitely loved hearing about the science. Thank you both so much. Yeah, I need to be more aware of my baseline emotions to minimize my shifts. Yeah, we'll get into more of that to come. So stay tuned for tomorrow. We'll see you back here, same time, same place. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.